Okay. Okay, we are on. So there was a little bit of a little button I didn't click.
Yeah, but it's all good. Good morning to everybody.
Yeah, but this is DJ Morena Libre and DJ.
This is DJ JC. Happy Friday, October 13th to everybody. We were just talking about that. Well, we thought we were talking, but there was a glitch in the system, but I think we're back online.
Yeah, I think we're back. So we're just talking about the weekend and how there's so much going on. There's an eclipse. There is, what else? The 13th.
Yes, today. So be careful, be safe, take care. If you are superstitious, hopefully you're taking care of yourself, but enjoying this Friday and into the weekend. So yes, the eclipse is happening tomorrow at 11:46 a.m. is my understanding. Obviously,
I don't know. That's too much information. Yeah. But one thing, so every time I see during Halloween or during October, every time I see black cats, I'm wondering if they survive, the the Halloween era. You know what I mean?
It's this whole month is just, you get into the spooky season, I think, late August, and it just continues. The same thing with Christmas. Thanksgiving, not so much. It's really not nothing really going on with Thanksgiving.
It's a settler holiday. So we didn't celebrate it growing up. Really? And I know a lot of families who don't. I mean, Mexican families don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
I love Thanksgiving.
There's a lot of things Mexican families don't celebrate. Wow. And then some, if you're really, I think now it's hard, right? But growing up, it was el Día de los Santos Reyes,
Yeah, so January 6th.
Yeah, so that it wasn't Christmas, right? But we were off.
Oh, yeah. So,
and it was an excuse to eat.
Yeah, it was. So you started seeing a couple of years back this whole thing about Dia de los Muertos, and it's kind of permeated culture, and you see it more and more, which I think is November...
First and second, yeah.
And second, and my birthday's on the 2nd, which is All Souls Day. But, you see, the calaveras, the calaveritas, all these different things, Target, H-E-B, all these.
It's been commodified.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. You're like, yeah.
It has, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. It's just,
because it was ours.
Yes, it's a really like I grew up knowing about Dia de los Muertos, but we practiced it a little bit differently. It wasn't like an all-out altar. Like there's families that carry on the tradition by like half of their room in a house is an altar, and they decorate it so beautifully. And then they go and they visit their family members at the cemetery, and they decorate the cemetery. It's a beautiful tradition, but it has been commodified, and I think it's just happened. I don't know. It's kind of it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you want future generations or current generations to know about it and to learn, and it's gonna change. With every generation that comes, right? But at the same time, you also want to make sure that we hold on to the knowledge that comes with those traditions, right? Because it's in the fall. It's what do you call, part of the harvest, right? So it's just, we need to learn just a little bit more, and I could invite Juan. Juan's a folklorist, so he did quite a bit of research on Day of the Dead, and he can come and speak to us about that.
That'd be great.
But it's a beautiful tradition, and like I'm prepared. I joined so I'm gonna be dancing for Dia de los Muertos. Yeah, so Roca, who's in Bronzeville, they are a nonprofit. And they're downtown in the Bronzeville Performing Arts Center. I think center or something.
Oh yeah, that building
the building downtown, yeah.
Yeah, the one that they gutted out, and it just is amazing.
It's a beautiful
amazing
building.
Facility.
Yeah, they did a great job, but she's a director of that program, and she's bringing together community to dance, so concheros. It's beautiful. But I just went to my first practice on Sunday, this past Sunday, and it's a good cardio.
And where are you going to be performing this? Where are you dancing?
I'll get those details
Okay.
because I'm still working on the dance, and then
Okay.
my head's not on the details yet.
Try to learn the steps.
Yes, I have to learn the steps. Once I get there, then I'll share I'll share the details right before.
But this all started this past Sunday, like as a
For
group?
me, no.
You. So they've already been doing it.
They're like,
Oh,
they dance
they're
really
doing it.
beautiful.
I see.
No,
see.
I'm soy primeriza. Apenas estoy, it's just new. Okay, so you have a few announcements, or you have a few discussions.
Yes, I wanted to bring up this week is midterm week, and I know that it's very stressful for our students. And when that stress becomes so, just so debilitating that we cannot handle it, or we're just having hard time struggling with it, there is help out there. There is assistance both at the university level and through other means where, talking to somebody, just bringing up what you're going through, what you're feeling, self-awareness of, the situation. I think that's really important because I working at the library, we do see a lot of students come in stressed about research, about tests, and everything just seems to culminate around that same week. And so it's important, I think, for students to know that there are resources available for them in terms of, just need to talk to somebody, need to go outside of your, of your family, maybe discuss what you're going through with somebody from the outside. And so I know we're talking a little bit about this as we were walking over here about midterms and everything that, comes along with it. And so, I don't know, I think that students just need to be aware that there is help. And I know that the last thing we want is for students to just feel that there's no way out, there's no one there, there's no one to support them when there are resources out there and available for them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there are. I mean, it's really important, especially, right? And the reason we're bringing this up is because of midterms, right?
Yeah.
We're around that time, and there's a lot of pressure. But yeah. So I'm gonna play a song,
Okay.
and then we can come back and talk about maybe a little bit of mental health and student life. And
Just real quick before we do go into the break, I do want to thank all our listeners, both new listeners and just supporters of the show, coworkers, colleagues, family that's listening, and also a special shout out to a friend of mine, Catherine Autry, who is the director of Project Stream for the College of Education at the University of Texas Permian Basin. She's a friend of mine who recently contacted me for some research assistance, and it had been many, many years that we had been in touch, and so she reached out to me, and now she's listening and following along the show. So thank you so very much, Kathy, for tuning in.
Thank you. So here we are with Carla Morrison, Compartir. Esa fue Carla Morrison, Compartir. Oh, that's a beautiful song. Okay, we're back.
Okay, so just we were talking about, help that's out there, assistance for people that need it, and we want people to understand that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek.
Yeah.
That I need help.
Yeah. I mean, but it's also hard, right? It doesn't always come easy to ask for help because of an array of issues, right? Cultural, right? We don't always know the best way to support each other, right? Or sometimes even just admitting or coming to terms with the fact that we have that we need mental health support is often a challenge, right? Just to even get to that point, right? Because we brush it off. Yeah. We're like, okay, no, I need to do it, right? I need to deal with it on my own. I need to get over it, right? We tell ourselves that a lot.
Okay, Sylvia, but
or each other.
But is there also this feeling amongst us as maybe a culture, as you know, as that we don't need to talk to anybody. We have our family, and everything stays within the family. You don't need to air your dirty laundry to others. Is that sometimes something that maybe prevents us from seeking help or looking for, hey man, I need to talk to somebody. You know, I'm going through these things and my family's just giving me the same advice. Get over it, get over it, get over it. But I need to talk to a professional that can get me beyond the just get over it.
Yeah, it's just, all that is it's really a complex web, right? So families have, even though we don't always acknowledge it, but families have a wealth of knowledge, right?
Yes.
A huge wealth of knowledge
And experience,
and experience that we pass on, right, from one generation in the next. Whether it works for one generation or not, that it's always a question, right, that each generation has to contend with. I mean, I may have been passed down some habits that are not healthy, right? So, but for me to come to terms and to have that introspection to say, oh man, that's not working for me. So I have to discard that tool because maybe my grandmother or my great grandmother, right, used it as a form of survival for her context, but that's not working for mine, right? And maybe keeping it within the family and not airing out, like you said, airing out our dirty laundry. It doesn't always work for this generation or for anyone, right? Like it might not be working, but there was a reason for it. Right? It was, every generation goes through, you have to understand the social context, right, of those decisions. Maybe there was a lot of violence in the community. There is trauma, right, that you have to keep, or, there's certain secrets that you have to maintain because if not, it's survival, right? Yeah. So you have to understand that. But to unravel all that, especially at a young age, it's a huge task. So this is why going to a professional, right, going to somebody who's trained to teach you some tools, right, or some skills to be able to manage your stress, manage the trauma, and then that way, and then also it gives you a buffer from that family or that intimate community, right?
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get to. Is that talking to somebody outside of that circle, outside of your cousins or whoever has been giving you advice. Because there's also boys don't cry and boys don't cry, men don't cry, and they shouldn't be sharing their feelings in front of others and things like that. That we have heard from a young age. And I mean, it's from a young age. You fall off your bike as a little boy. No llores, don't cry, don't cry. And you're never allowed to express yourself.
I'm at fault of that. I'll sometimes tell my daughter, "Ay, no llores." And then I hear myself. I'm like, no, like she needs to cry. And crying is a wonderful, wonderful tool that our own body has, and yet we reject it.
Yes.
And we shame it.
We don't want to.
Right? But it's our own body healing and externalizing whatever we're holding in. And then here I am too, right? Aware of this, and yet I perpetuate it. But it's just because it's ingrained, right? That we're not supposed to cry in front of people. But it's such a beautiful act. It's a radical act too, to just cry. Because it's our body. It's but body doing its own thing, right? And it has its own knowledge, and we're allowing it to just go.
But again, we're embarrassed. We're ashamed.
We shame a lot of things, though, right?
Yes, we do.
A lot of things. I mean, it's a constant shaming of so many things, like women's period, right? We shame our bodies constantly because they're not the Eurocentric slim body that we are used to, that we're thrown at, right? But the media has for decades been throwing the ideal look and all that, right? So we body shame. We food shame. It's like, well, you're eating a certain type of foods, and like, I'm here hiding, McDonald's, because now the vegans or
Yeah.
or the vegetarian movement, are shame. There's so much shaming that it's unhealthy,
Yeah.
right? It's unhealthy, and our kids are learning it, and it keeps perpetuating. I mean, we
Okay.
shame the color of our
Yeah.
skin, we shame our language, we shame. I
Each
mean,
other.
we shame. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's constant, right? And in that, that is sickening. It's sickening, and it can get you sick, and if we're constantly treating each other like this, right? It's harmful. It's just, these are harmful. It's harmful behavior. But how do we recognize it, right? Because we're all trapped. We're all in it. We're all in it together. Nobody can escape the like we've talked about these social systems, right? We can't escape them. We're in them. So the only way to be able to start being, like, let's say, anti-racist, right, is to start recognizing it. Like, we have to have those hard conversations about what a certain system is, right? We're talking about patriarchy, right? We have to have those hard conversations. And
And we've talked about that, about those
Yeah.
conversations being so difficult, because it goes back to what you were saying earlier. We rather deal with it in our own way, in what works or what has worked
Yeah.
for generations, And I think also, Sylvia, one of the things that's happening is, and I know we mentioned this just off the air about propaganda and about the noise that's out there as well. All these different things that we're hearing from all sorts of different media, from all sorts of different outlets. And it's tough to discern, like, what is real at this point? What is valid? What is, what can we believe? Because there's so much. I admit that I am a big TikTok user.
You are,
And
yeah.
by the time I know it, I've already invested an hour. Like, oh my goodness, I didn't do anything productive just watching TikToks, you know. And mind you, yes, sometimes something will come up that I go down a deep dive and want to know more about. But for the most part, it's just idiotic, nonsensical stuff that I'm laughing at, that somebody sends me a video and I just keep whatever. But you're hearing all these different things on these platforms, on social media, of these people that are spewing. I think that's what it is, just spewing hatred, spewing all this negativity. And it's like, man, when is this gonna end? How do we
Yeah.
fix this? How do we get past where we're at right now? And it's not something new, Sylvia. It isn't. It's something that's been going on for years, but I think it's just magnified now because of the ease as to how we can view things on YouTube, how we can view things on social media, how we can view things so easily on TikTok or whatever. And you fall into this, like I said, an hour of doing nothing, just watching TikTok. Come on, man. There's
Yeah.
better ways that I can spend my time.
Well, I mean, it's one out of 5 people in the U.S. that are that have a mental health challenge, right? So I just took a course. I'm certified as a mental health first aid instructor. So as part of the grant that's supporting this, and I'll have more information on that, is that was along with Dr. Lucas Espinosa. Is we have to give classes in mental health first aid classes. And the statistic was shocking to me, 1 out of 5. So, 1 out of 5 people in your group
Are suffering from or
mental health
being
challenge.
affected by.
Yeah. And I mean, it varies, right? There's just an array. There's no cookie cutter way of
No, there isn't.
of dealing with our stress. So, but and I think for children, so I know recently it's been in the media where the risk that of children spending too much time on devices, right? But not only devices, in social media. So, and we've known this for a while, but it was kept from the public. Facebook had been doing research on, or Meta now, I believe, they were doing research on it, and they ignored the research. They didn't make it public, and yet they continue to target the population, a younger population. He had to go speak in Congress because of that. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's the amount of time. It's how our brains start to develop at a young age, that it's harming, and it's leading children to start feeling symptoms of depression at a much younger age.
Okay. So with that, you mentioned devices, phones, tablets. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I bring
Computers.
that up, yeah. So I asked that because I was talking to some school librarians that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And they were telling me that they offer their students all sorts of things that I'm sure you and I, back in the day when we were young, only could imagine. I mean, my friends are telling me we have robots, we have drones, we have remote control, we have to build robots and all these different things, and they want to be on their phones. Rather than do all these other creative things, they rather be on their phones. And I thought, wow, that's so distressing. The fact that, you have all this available to you, and these students rather be on their phones.
I have a friend who studies, different forms of literacy, and I was telling her how I don't. I'm trying to be really careful with how my kids interact with their devices, right? And then also how they play and who they play with online, right? Yeah. But we do it not by policing them. We do it by explaining to them the dangers, right, and the risk of the world, that other dimension, right, that they're in. I don't want to pull them away, but I need them to be careful, right? And so for me, it's really important to tell them, look, this is the latest report on this and YouTube, and the way they can send messages. Like, it's just data that we've been finding, and we share it with them. That way they know, right? And then and of course helping them, right, sort through that. But she also told me, and I hadn't really thought about it, how it's another social space for people to interact with, right? And there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. But of course, for me, it's the risk, right? Of what they're being exposed to.
Who's out there?
Who's interacting with them? How are they interacting with them, right? Like, it's just always keeping an eye out. But my kids aren't in... they're not in social media. I mean, we have to limit their YouTube. And, it's
but,
just...
Okay, so let me ask you this. But do you censor YouTube videos, or they have free reign of whatever they want to look at through YouTube?
No, they don't have free reign, but they've learned to be careful.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm sure they've caught, like, it's just the algorithms, right?
Oh, yes.
So
something will come up.
Yeah. So we've talked to them about the algorithms. So we just make sure that whatever they're clicking on, and sometimes it just goes and goes, right? Like, it's just one video after the next. They don't even have control over it. So we try and be careful with that. But they watch a lot of gamers. So my kids like gaming.
Okay.
And there's this couple. So with my daughter, over the years, she's followed like these influencers. Like, one was I forgot the name right now, but she was a baker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she made these really realistic cakes.
I've
right?
seen somebody like that on TikTok.
Yeah, it's like, and this is YouTube. Oh no, this was Instagram, right? So we used to follow her, and now she's like a big, like, she doesn't even come out on her Instagram anymore because it's now taken over by her company, right?
Probably, huh?
And then there was another one that she followed that was an influence, but she was a cookie. She had a cookie channel, like she would make cookies.
Oh, okay.
And now she's in the Food Network, right? So like, I've seen with my kids, I've learned about these influencers, right? And then, and now there's this couple that they watch. And they play together, and they're married. So it's just really cute. And so I recognize their voice when I'm passing by, and I hear them.
You know who they're talking about.
I know who they're watching, right? So, but I don't want to take because they're learning. I mean, these are they're literacy, for them. But I'm glad that they seek out, right? They seek out who they want to listen to and who they want to learn from. But then they show me some other ones too, like some science guy. He does they do experiments and like it's like they take little experiments like and they make them big.
Oh, okay.
Like
at another, another level.
At another level, yeah. So we try and engage with them because that's also our way of knowing, okay, who they're watching, right? Who they're listening to,
who they're following.
And I'm always telling them, don't be watching any. I always tell them, like, ignorance can be passed on. So just don't be. We need to be careful with what you're listening to.
Exactly. Yes.
Go ahead.
So I went to a graduation party.
Uh-huh.
Not last year, but the year before. And so graduation party, and I go up to the graduate. He goes, so what do you want to do now? Oh, I want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
So that's what they're aiming towards, is being these influencers. I go, okay, what do you do? No, nothing yet, but I want to be an influencer. Like, what's your niche? What are you going to do? I don't know, but I want to be an influencer. So no real direction, but they're seeing these things,
Yeah.
that these influencers are making tons of money and they are famous and they're doing these things and they want to do it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple, easy.
It's a hard.
It is.
It's
it
a
is
hard,
really. It's a hard line.
It is. Yeah. It is, right? Because it's a whole world that I really am still learning about.
Same here, Sylvia.
I mean, it's It's I don't even I'm with no words because I have no words because it's like you don't want to discourage.
No, you don't.
A dream, right?
You don't, and not only that,
An
but
aspiration.
You don't want them. You mentioned it earlier. You don't want them to not know what's happening when they are discussing these things.
Yeah.
At school, with friends, with family, and you don't want them to be that odd person out, that just doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, but when we were growing up, it's like, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be president of the United States, right? Like we knew that wasn't going to be attainable. Somebody around us knew that wasn't going to be attainable.
I want to be an astronaut.
There you go. Like.
Yeah. I want to be a veterinarian. I can't even pass my first class of biology. That's from personal experience right there. You get a glimpse into my life. I came in with I want to be a veterinarian. Nah, I struggled with my first biology class. I'm like, all right, something different.
You started gagging.
Yeah, I was like, I'm out. Oh, yeah.
So I mean, you have to also realize that it's there's still so many years ahead of them where they're gonna still be exposed to so much. So yeah, it's just what is it? What's that saying? I just take it by a grain of salt.
Yeah,
right?
with a grain of salt.
With a grain of salt. Thank you. Yeah. So no, I mean it's my kids haven't yet said influencer. They know they exist and they know the name influencer, but although my son was like, you know what? But for him, it was more of I want a YouTube channel because I want to, what is it that he wanted to showcase? There was something that he wanted to do. He wanted to teach people how to do something. Okay. So I'm like, okay, well, when you're a little bit older, then we'll start practicing now.
Okay.
So that then by the time you're ready, then we can, whatever it is that he wants to teach people.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cool. I think it's just because they watch so much instructional video.
Yeah.
It's a good pedagogical tool. I mean, I don't mind. I give myself breaks though, because going back to mental health, it's really you have to be constantly aware of what you're consuming with your eyes, right? And with your ears, like with all our senses, not just our mouth, right? Yeah. We have to be constantly aware. So I just right now with what's going on in Palestine and in Israel. I mean, it's very You just have to be careful. You have to read into. You have to know the history of a place before you think you know, or you start to or
Start
decide.
making TikTok videos about what's happening.
Exactly. So are there are a
Oh
lot?
yeah, there's all
Yeah.
sorts of people that are, just yeah,
Yeah.
it's just again a lot of
Misinformed.
noise, a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And but there are some where again they bring in experts
Mm-hmm.
that have studied um, the region, the culture,
Yeah.
and they give their perspective as well. But yeah, you're just hearing a bunch of noise from a lot of
Yeah.
uninformed people
Yeah. Well,
and
I
their
mean,
opinion of what's happening.
yeah,
And
and the thing is that it's everybody has an opinion, right? So we have to be careful with even at the highest level of our government, right? They have their own opinions too on how they're leading or supporting a particular state or right. So, but it doesn't mean that we all have to follow or be in agreement with those statements or decisions.
yeah,
I mean, they're representatives. They're not absolute, right? So a lot of things that Biden has said, I don't agree with, and that's okay. That should be okay. I
yeah,
mean, we live in an open society, so I don't agree with the way the media is handling it either.
and that's one
And
of the things we were talking about before the show
yes,
was how the media is handling it and how we're just and I know I've said this word more than any other show, but the noise that we're hearing and what we're seeing and the visual, just the news and what they're showing
mm-hmm,
us
mm-hmm,
on the news,
yeah,
and it's like wow, okay, so what do we do?
yeah. Well, I mean, there is actually. I shared. We have our Instagram at Radio Feminista
Feminista.
on Instagram, and there I shared a post, and it's what you can do beyond reading the news about Gaza, right? And on there they have like donate, right? You can medical aid for Palestinians, Palestine Children's Relief Fund, the World Food Program, because they've been cut off. There's no
Yes.
water, their electricity, no access to, no more food can go into the area. Doctors Without Borders, you can donate to them. And then there's also books that you can read, right? So that you can become informed about the situation, but mainly the history of the place, right? Because if with the way it's being portrayed right now, it's the history of the conflict between Palestinians and Israel's has been ignored. We're not discussing it. But there's the 100 Years' War on Palestine, a history of settler colonialism and resistance between 1917 and 2017. So just that, even the title gives you a sense of how long this has been going
Oh
on, right?
yes, for centuries I think.
And this is by Rashid Khalidi. There's also Noam Chomsky. He wrote Fateful Triangle, the United States, Israel, and the Palestinians. That's another book that you can look at. There's another one called Light in Gaza. And I'm not seeing the author on this one. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of books. There's documentaries that you could watch on just to get yourself, and students have access, right, to
Yeah,
Canopy
yeah.
and to other streaming
Services through the
sources.
library, so you can
Yeah.
get some of that information. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can watch some of them. Some of these are on Canopy. Contact Congress, so we all have a representative in Congress. Contact them and just tell them like what are they doing?
Where are we at?
Where are we at? Right? Get informed. And
I like that. I like that. Get informed. I think
yeah.
that's the theme of many things, but get informed before you start spewing or start talking. You need to get informed.
Yeah.
And know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a huge irresponsibility, I think, for us not to find out, get the facts, and then make and there's really who cares about what I think, right? About when it comes to the war in between in Palestine and Israel, right? But the thing is that we have to understand that what's happening there is also happening in other areas in the world, right? Like it's not an isolated event, nor is it. We have to understand why the U.S. is so involved, right? Why does the U.S. Care, right?
Such a stake in it.
Exactly, right. So we have to understand that's the reason, right? Because we are responsible. We're citizens of a particular country. So we need to understand what is happening, how our country's getting involved, and why, right? So that we can be informed and so that we can ask questions. It's just, and it starts there. It's like, why, right? But you have to be careful what sources you go and look at, right?
And,
I'm sure as a librarian.
Yes, I mean, that's what we talk about and discuss and want to empower our users to continue utilizing resources that are balanced, that, devoid of, bias, and, just ask questions, why is this happening, and support it with, scholarly resources, materials that, are going to give you facts, figures, statistics that you can utilize and say, oh, okay, so for many years, this is why the United States has been so invested in this area. This is why, and it starts to make more sense as we become, like you said earlier, informed on what is happening. And it's easy, Sylvia. It is easy, and we talked about this before the show. It is easy to view these images of the attack Saturday, with the paratroopers and coming in and so forth. It's easy for us to just become like, wow, this is something out of a movie. But like you and I were talking off the air, but what has happened leading up to that?
Exactly.
What has happened previously that's not being, shown in the news? And why is, so there's just so much. And, as scholars, as educators, as librarians, we need to find those sources of information that are going to provide us with the most credible, reliable, and, just things that we can count on so we can make better educated decisions and we can, educate ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, there was an attack. Israel had just attacked Palestinians a few weeks prior, and there was a lot of bloodshed. So, but none of that was aired, or no, there was no. I didn't even see it on the. I usually get my alerts from the New York Times, and the New York Times didn't. I didn't know about it. It didn't. Well, I didn't know about that attack until this one.
This one, yeah.
So, so it's a long history there.
It is.
Long history of war and conflict. So it's just important for us to be aware of what's going on and stay informed. Again, go to the library. If you have a question about what's and you're curious, the librarians are there. And if they're not going to have all the answers, but they'll know where sources to go to that you can go and seek out.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay, I want to play a song before we end the show. What do you want to listen to? Let's see. Cake by the Ocean. I'm a fan of the Jonas Brothers.
You are.
I am. I don't know. I like their music. And even when they split up and I think they're back together again, I love their music. So here is Cake by the Ocean. Esa se la dedico a mi hija.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that song. Okay,
Yes,
so we were just laughing.
too.
You started talking before.
Yes, so I didn't know the mic was not on, so I gave this whole speech. No, just kidding. No, there are a lot of things that Celia and I talk about off the air that we're laughing about and we're kind of commenting on. And so I think we need to start our own podcast at some point to kind of be able to just freely talk about some of these things. But it's been a great show. Interesting conversation as far as just everything that there is going on right now, that is happening, that is, part of our daily lives. And again, I'll go back to something that I mentioned at the beginning. Just seek help if that's what you need. And there's no shame in asking for help
Yeah.
and seeking out.
And you can seek out help with at your church, right? At maybe at a with your doctor, just somebody around you that that you can trust, and that here at the university we have the counseling center.
Yes.
And they're really, I mean, they're there. They're there. There's a resource that students pay for through their fees, right? So it's there for them.
I was talking to a faculty member that was mentioning some of the things that are available that our students don't know about, like the food bank.
We have a food bank,
yes,
food pantry.
Yeah, food pantry and,
Yeah.
and things like that our students don't know about, and just
Yeah.
these things can help them.
Yeah, here I think in the Bronzeville campus, the food pantry is located across the bookstore.
Okay.
In that
Okay.
older building.
Yeah.
Our kids and I were walking around on Tuesday, and I saw it. So I didn't know where it was located. So
Okay.
now I know. But it's across the bookstore. So yeah, just go, and it's food. It's good. It's donated, and something you don't have to spend on, right? So it's accessible. All you need, I think, is a student ID.
And I mentioned that because the library is having a food drive right now, and everything
Oh.
is going to be provided to the food pantry.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, and I mean the counseling center, and then there's mentors that you have,
Yes.
professors. I mean, if you trust them, you could always share. If you're not comfortable in person, via email, and we can refer you to the counseling center, or to whom we'll figure out who we need to refer you to give you the support that's needed. But yeah,
You're not alone.
You're not. Yeah, no one's alone. I know it's hard sometimes because there's so many cultural and societal, pressures to maybe do it this way or do it this other way. But mental health is mental health, right? And it's the hope is to make sure that we get better, right? Somehow, and there's no right way to do it. It's just seeking the help that you need, and that can come in many ways. I mean, it just depends also what you have access to, right?
Yes,
Not everybody
that's right.
has insurance to be able to seek out a therapist. So then what do you do, right? Well, then, maybe seek out a type of a resource, maybe a priest or a pastor, right? That you can go talk to. Maybe a friend that may be connected to some organization, right? Something that will help you with that process, with that challenge.
I remember during the pandemic, a lot of commercials of help receiving, mental health, things, awareness, and talking to a therapist. And a lot of them were doing through Zoom. And that might be an avenue also, that if you just don't want to talk to somebody in person, face to face, maybe through Zoom, that's
Yeah.
available to you as well. I remember all sorts of commercials and things being advertised, and going back to 2020 and after that, the stress levels that we were on, that people were dealing with.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
one of the things that came out of that was, the ease for some people to be able to talk to a therapist via virtual means rather
Yeah.
than have to go out. I mean,
Yeah.
talk to them in person. So there's help. There's
Yeah.
assistance.
I've been going to therapy on and off since I was maybe 29 years old. And I used university resources because I didn't have insurance for a long time. And mainly since then I've been in higher ed. So those have been primarily the resources I've used. But it was during COVID that now it's become almost like a prevent for me. It's like, okay, I have to go take care of my annual checkups and everything, right? Like, I have those on schedule, dentist, right? Everything. Then I also have that's part of my entourage, I guess, right?
Your team.
My team. It's part of my team that keep me going, right?
Yeah.
And help me out because our mental health is just as important as any other any other aspect of our lives.
Of our physical health, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, our physical health. So it's for me, it's just part of my health experts that I go seek out.
Yeah,
You know, so and it's really when I don't. I can feel it. Like I can feel a little bit of like, oh, I don't have anybody to talk to, about this particular thing. And you just need somebody to give you some clear advice that has no investment in any.
I think that's what I wanted to get to at the beginning was that no investment in knowing where you're coming from, who you are, like our family.
Yeah.
Somebody outside of that circle.
Yeah. But I don't want to dismiss our families and our communities because sometimes that's all we have.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all sometimes that's all the access we have, and we trust them and we believe in them, or we don't trust them, right? But that's all we have. But that's all we have. Yeah. So, and it's important to be able to recognize, and this doesn't always happen at a young age, but as you get older, it's important to recognize the value that our family brings to our well-being as well, right? So, for example, for me, and within my research, gardening, tending to the land is something that my family the women in my family have passed down to me, and that I'm attempting to pass down to my children, right? But that just gardening, tending to the land, studying the land, that for me is what also gives me a sense of belonging and helps me with my well-being.
Yeah, I think when I initially met you 2 years ago, you were telling me that you had become involved in the Brownsville. It's a gardens.
Yeah, it's a community garden on right by Falk Middle School.
Middle School, yeah.
Yeah, and that and it comes with its trust me, it comes with its with its complexities as well. But being part of a community garden is it's a really wonderful experience because you get to see how others are finding ways to heal a wound, right? But also maybe pass on knowledge, or because they're trying to remember, right?
Yes.
That's their way of remembering. It's a wonderful experience. If you have and many of us here have gardens at home, right? Or in a ranchito or something, right? Those are important things that have been passed down through our families. Yeah. Okay. Well, then thank you for today. It was a wonderful conversation.
It was really nice. It was just coming together and just discussing everything.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on right now, and it's a busy time. So take time to take naps. Take time. I encourage my students to take naps. I encourage them to learn about ways that, like, it's not. My mom just recently found out that you need to sleep 9 hours a night, or you're prone to get dementia. Yes. And that's real. I mean, that's real. It's research that's been going on for a while, which needs to make it out. So sleeping is really important. Drinking, staying hydrated, and eating good, clean food, right? It's just, we're thinking longevity.
Yeah.
We're thinking, exactly. We're thinking longevity. So take care of yourselves. Don't procrastinate on your on your projects. Seek out help from if you're confused, if you are struggling with an assignment, make sure you reach out to your professor. If the professor is, maybe bombarded with emails and can't get to it right away, then go to the learning center.
Yeah, the learning center, or library.
Or the library, right? Research. There's so much out there and resources for you to go out and get help. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're done.
A wonderful show. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and thank you so much for supporting the show and for being here and for allowing us to spend our morning with you. Yes.
Friday morning. So we are on Instagram at Radio Feminista, And we have an email. I got it. I have it right here.
Yeah, all right.
Thefeministhour@gmail.com.
So we want to hear from you.
Yeah. I mean, we do. Even if it's just something. I think your friend left a little comment, like, great
Yes.
show. Like, we really do want to
Yes,
hear what others are thinking about the show. The music. Maybe you want to hear more music. Let's talk. Whatever it is, we want to hear it. Not that we're going to do it, but
But send your emails
but
anyway.
just send your, feedback, your, comments, whatever. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. We are going to end the show with Buena Vista Social Club, De Camino a la Vereda. And I hope you enjoy. Again, be safe. Enjoy the eclipse if you're going to go watch it.
Be careful, though, not to...
No, look at it directly, please. I think the Bronzeville Public Library
Yes.
is going to
They
be
have-
having
I
events.
think they have an observatory.
Yeah, I
small
think in
one
the
there.
southmost one.
Yes.
So there's just things there's a lot to do this weekend. So be careful. And again, just get your 9 hours of sleep, okay?
9 hours, wow.
Okay, thank you, Joel.
Thank you, everybody. Gracias.